Hello, all. My name is Erta the Wanderer, and I've come out of the jungle today to talk with one of our most esteemed generals, the Great Lizard Wizard. How are we doing, Wizard?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
So far, so good. And we have green on the horizon, both all flavors of it.
The Green Tide.
Yep. And some of it's like greeny, browny, yellowy.
Yeah, I mean, I you can
I
paint
mean,
them
the
however you want.
the
Like I
new
paint mine like
guys,
Skittles.
like Skittles.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can see that
pick a
working out.
color, go. Pick another color, go.
But yeah, so this new book is another soup book. They decided to throw Iron Jaws, Bone Spitters, and the new Cruel Boys, which I honestly thought would have gone better with goblins than orcs, but fair enough.
You're a
To get
good halfway between.
right, which but the thing is, they're built. They fight
Oh
like
yeah,
goblins.
they've got Trogs.
Yeah, they've
They've
got
got
trogs. They've
Hobgrots.
got hobgods. They look lanky. They fight sneaky.
Yeah,
It's a very goblin-y army,
I
despite
agree.
being
Yeah,
in the orc book. But yeah, this is our new army. We have hobgoblins and confirmation on chorfs, by the way, and and they got their own wing of the army.
yeah, yep. So like the other Orc war clans, it's all those sub factions. They've added Cruel Boys.
Hmm.
Uh, Iron Jaws, Bone Splitters, they're back. Big Wall's back. All of them are changed and tweaked. Um, I like it. It's a solid book. It's got a lot of options. Uh, I think it's all moderately competitive. I think some of it's more competitive than other stuff. Um,
Despite
but
the
I
hits it
love
took.
big, broad. Yeah. And I really like big, broad books like this, like Slaves to Darkness, like Skaven Tide. It really gives a lot of room to either play up or play down.
It also
Um,
gives general longevity as things in the book fall out of favor and other things continue on.
exactly. Exactly. As the
Not
meta shifts, you can meet to adjust it.
not always. Goblins kind of fell on its face, but more often
Yeah.
than not, you can hold out longer. In
Yep.
yeah,
And goblins, in all fairness, lasted competitively longer than anyone might have thought they would with the changes that were on the horizon for them. Like they
mm.
are in a real rough place, but like,
They have been for a while, ever since
yeah,
realm artifacts and died
yep, yep.
and
And endless spells.
and then the spells like and third edition kicked them repeatedly in the head,
Yeah, yeah, they're rough.
and
So
then
hopefully they get a
changes
new
after
book soon.
that. Yep. But yeah, we've got orcs today. Let's see who's
Yep.
first up on the docket.
So it's typical book order. Like it's got the what you would expect. They break down each of the allegiance abilities. Then they go into the different war clans, which are like the sub factions you can take. They give you your uh, grand strategies and battle tactics that are book specific, your core battalions, and then all your other war scrolls. Um, but the first allegiance for the allegiance abilities is the new guys, the Cruel Boys. Um,
Rule boys.
yeah, so just a generic battle trait. You get to pick one of the following sub factions. They've got Grin and Blades, Big Yellows, and Skull Bugs.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get to those when we get to those. They get their main identifying feature is venom encrusted weapons. So any unmodified hit roll for an attack, this is shooting or combat, made by a Cruel Boys Auric unit, which is important. If it's a six, it causes a number of mortal wounds equal to the damage characteristic of that weapon's attack. Uh, it's amazing.
Yeah,
That's super awesome.
sixes to wound on sixes to hit doing mortals is one of the more powerful melee buffs in the game.
Yep, and shooting as well.
Yep,
Um,
like
it
we
is
know this with
important.
salamanders.
Mhm.
We know this with like great sworders in
Oh
general.
yeah,
This is incredible, and they can do more than the average one on a lot of their guys.
yeah. I mean, all of Lumineth Realm Lords. This is what makes Lumineth Realm Lords good.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it is important to note though that the venom encrusted weapon does not affect mounts unless otherwise noted. There's
Hmm.
several things with pretty good mounts in here, and sadly they don't get the venom
Yeah, you were
encrusted
talking to
weapons.
me about the Trogoth guy earlier, but it wouldn't
Yeah,
work for him, which is a shame.
yep. It works for his club attack though, which is what gets the six attack. Anyways, once per battle, this is their Waaagh. Once per battle in the combat phase, if you pick your Cruel Boys general, you can say that they're doing the Cruel Boys Waaagh. And when you do that, you pick them, that general, and two others Cruel Boy units wholly within 18, and they all get to fight in the combat phase, one after the other.
Mm.
Um, which is pretty awesome.
It's really potent. Is this in addition to their other combat phases, or does this just give them priority?
This just gives them priority.
Okay.
So it still counts as their fight. They don't get to fight again. But getting to like Lumineth Rumlords gets to do two at once every time, and you've seen how potent that is. Ideneth Deepkin gets their tide chart, and it made them amazing. Like, this ability in general, I have seen overlooked.
Well, activation wars have been a problem for quite some time. A lot of
Yeah,
armies, whenever they get it, they become potent.
yep,
And yeah, ta-da!
yeah,
Here you go,
yeah.
Orks. You
So
get it once again.
they're awesome. They have their dirty tricks, which is just so themey. That's their next thing. And there's several different you can choose from. So after players have received their starting command points, but before the start of the first turn, you can pick one of the following dirty tricks to employ during the battle. These are once per battle. You only get to do them once. But I like this. I hope we see more of this type of thing where it's flexibility to adjust and meet your opponent.
Mm-hmm.
Their options are Noisy Racket, subtract one from wound rolls for attacks made by enemy units in the first battle round. Lethal Surprise, roll 3 dice. For each 4-up, you can pick one different terrain feature or a different objective that's not wholly within enemy territory. Secretly note it down. This I don't like because that's always annoying.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but it's a great ability. The first time an enemy unit finishes a move within an inch of it or on it, roll a dice on a 2+. It takes D6 mortal wounds. You just get to booby trap the battlefield. That's freaking awesome.
Ouch.
Yeah. They've got Disappearing Act. This one is one of the better ones, in my opinion. Roll 3 dice. For each 4-up, pick a different enemy unit on the battlefield that has not been reinforced. Roll a dice for each unit you picked. If the roll is greater than that unit's wound characteristic, your opponent must remove that unit from the battlefield and set it up as a reserve. At the end of your opponent's first movement phase, they must set that unit on the battlefield wholly within their own territory, more than 9 away from enemy units. You can't pick this if the battle plan specifically says no reserves.
That,
But that is amazing.
yeah, ouch. Especially if you manage to be very quick with your guys and just make it so that they can't have guys on the side of the board.
Yeah, but also just like removing all their hero support. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, you're playing Cities of
Anything. It
Sigmar?
doesn't matter.
Cool,
Everything
I'm
is
going to remove your
zeros.
wizard that cast your bridge. Like, you can remove crucial elements and force them into reserve to really
Yep.
damage your opponent's first turn.
Granted,
Um,
it's got the destruction random nonsense, so
yeah, you could roll 0 4-ups, or you could roll 3 4-ups.
yep.
But I think it's pretty common to expect 1 4-up.
Mm.
So I honestly expect to see Disappear and Act a lot against Seraphon players. Like, oh, you've got Croak? Cool, Disappear and Act. You're Slan? Cool, Disappearing Act. Yeah, or, oh, you're Bastillodon and Thunder Lizards. Well, now it's gone.
I don't think it would
like,
affect the Bastillodon all that much because he comes back in movement and then can still shoot.
Sure, but like if you're trying to actually zone something out and stop it from redeploying,
Yeah.
like those are valid targets. Like big enemy monsters with large bases that you can make it so they can't set up within 9 inches. Looking at you, Sons of Behemoth, and then
Or-
slingshotting a bunch of Hobgrots up tables so there's no place for them to put them. Like,
Or really just anything slow. Like,
yeah.
does this apply to things that they can put in the sky or in the grave?
Well, so it says holy unit on the battlefield. So no, it wouldn't do
Okay.
it.
Okay, good.
And it
That-
has
that could
not
be
been
annoying as heck.
reinforced. So if you
Oh.
reinforce a unit, it's immune. So this is largely for like heroes and monsters. Like you might do it a chafe screen or something. Like, oh cool, you strung out a screen in front of me. Well, it's gone. Like you'll definitely see it for that. But this is mostly going to be affecting heroes and monsters from how I'm anticipating it being used.
Fair enough. And we've got the last one, Covered in Mud. Roll
Yep.
3d6. For each 4-up, I'm noticing a pattern. Select
Uh
one of
huh.
your non-hero, non-monster units with the rest of the game. If they're in cover, the enemy cannot see them at all. Like, can't see them?
Yep, they're not visible.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah,
actually
so shooting and magic.
that's actually really potent.
Yes, it's amazing.
Like, that makes like because you don't have to
Gobsmack.
declare this earlier. You just choose this against
Yeah, whatever you need hero protection against. Like, oh look,
well,
you're
no,
KO.
it's
Cool.
against non-hero. It's only non-heroes and non-monsters. You can do this too, but
Oh, yep, yep.
yeah,
I thought it was specifically hero monster, non-hero monster.
you can like a good chunk of your. I mean, this is half of why demon princes are so good in that one Slaves to Darkness
Yeah, the
subsection,
spoilers.
is they can pop in and out and
Yep.
hello. That could be really tricksy. It wouldn't work
Yeah.
on like Luminous Realm Lords, which is one you really want it to work on, but you know,
Yeah, because they don't need line of sight with their yeah. Uh, and it
KO.
kicks KO while they're down. Like KO's not as I think KO will bounce back up further than it has been in tournament
We can hope.
results. But that's a whole aside.
All
But
right.
yeah, like that's their main allegiance abilities. They've got some pretty darn good command traits. They've got slippery scumbag. You can retreat and charge. That's awesome. This is the really good one. Super sneaky. If the general's on the battlefield, the start of the first battle round, before determining who has the first turn, pick a friendly Cruel Boys unit. Set it up anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 9 inches from all enemy units.
So you get a start of the game teleport.
Start of the game teleport. Yep.
That's really awesome.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Like, even if it's just to like screw up your opponent's deployment. Like, I put Gobspark over here, and then Luminous like, cool, I put my shit in range to shoot him. And you're like, now he's over here. Like, that's big. You don't just have to use it. Like, I know a lot of people are like, I'm gonna use it to get my gut represent. Yeah. There's tons of ways to use it.
It's orc players. That is what they're going to use it for. They're going to
Yeah.
pick a big smashy unit and they're going to put it right in your face.
But
shame
unfortunately, I think Cruel Boys really plays best going second. This book has so many tricks to waste your opponent's turn one. Like, I want to be going second. I'm taking this to further mess up my opponent's turn one if I'm taking it.
Actually,
Like,
yeah.
oh, cool, you
I mean,
deployed to line
mix
up against this
that with
thing. Now it's over
Disappear
here.
and Act, and
Yeah, exactly.
You just made it so that they only have a quarter of the board to work with.
And some of the other sub factions, like the Grin and Blades, when we get to them, like there's a lot you can do to basically make your opponent's first turn mute or moot. This I like this book a lot. Particularly, I really like Cruel Boys. It's
Well,
totally
it's
an
a
army
new
I would play.
Army. Of course, it's going to be Nito. But
Yeah.
they also have Go Maniac for that hero. All your units get the bodyguard trait.
Yep. Yeah, which is also really good.
Yep. Like not
Especially
a bad one amongst
since
these.
yeah, and their base heroes. It's not a war boss; it's their version of it, the killer boss. They all have something called all part of the plan, which is just a generic rule they possess. If a friendly Cruel Boys unit fails a battle shock test within 3 inches of them, only one model from that unit flees.
Oh, that's not bad.
So like having Egomaniac on one of those killer boys, it's amazing. Like, yeah, that's fantastic. Like, you're just not going to battle shock.
Good job, Games Workshop. None of these are bad.
Yep. Their artifacts are all that once per game type thing.
I don't like where this is going because that was pretty much the same for Stormcat. A good chunk of Stormcasts as well.
Yeah. But I do actually like them. I think they're interesting, and I think they mix well with what Cruel Boys is trying to do. But yeah, Eyebiter's Ash is the first one. It's once per battle, start of the combat phase. You can have your barrel huck it at an enemy unit within 3 inches of them. On a 1-2, nothing happens. This is what I don't like. Like, if it's once per game, just make it guaranteed.
Right, and like make it do the 3+ ability and nothing else, and you just get to use it once a game.
Yeah, and then on a 3-4, you subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made for units for the rest of that phase. But if you roll a 5 or a 6, it's for the rest of the battle. I actually don't mind rolling a dice when you do it. I just want it to be guaranteed. Like change the effectiveness of it. Like on a
On a 6, you
uh
get the permanent ability,
yeah,
and everything
exactly, or
else is
something
just
like that.
normal. But yeah, you shouldn't take an artifact
Make
just
it like the
for it to
dwarven
do.
runes.
Yeah, you shouldn't
Um,
take an artifact just for it to do nothing for the entire game. That's shit.
exactly. Um, I really like this next one, Mork's Eye Pebble. Once per battle at the start of the enemy's shooting phase, you can say the bearer will rub their Mork's Eye Petal. If you do so, the bearer and all friendly units wholly within 12 have a ward of a 5 plus until the next phase.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's great, especially for the current meta. Like, this is definitely a meta counter, because if you're taking this and you're taking Grinning Blades, uh, which I've mentioned them enough, I'm just going to mention what they do. Grinning Blades units cannot be seen by any enemy unit that is not within 12 inches of them during the first battle round. Uh, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's so many armies, like Lumineth and Disciples of Zinch, Seraphon, uh, Keratin Overlords. There's a lot of armies that this just really counters that you're still seeing in the meta. Combining that with Mork's Eye Pebble to then deny them yet another shooting phase. Uh, 2/5 of the entire damage output they expected to do over the game. Like, these are cripplingly good against some of those tactics.
Very much so. You're going to see a lot of these guys. Beast Kill a Slop. Target one enemy monster. The bearer fights during the fighting phase. Roll a d6. On a 2-up, the monster takes d6 mortal wounds.
Yeah.
But a lucky 6 makes that a 2d6 mortal wounds. Again, a good chance this thing does nothing at all, which is kind of crap, but
Yep.
it's not bad. A one, it's essentially popping a star flask in someone's face, but you don't hurt yourself.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I like it. And if I were playing in a meta where it was like a lot of Sons of Behemoth, a lot of Thunder Lizards, that sort of thing, I would definitely be looking at the Beast Killer Slap.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's fairly consistent, even though it is random. Like it's not difficult to use, and it goes off on a 2-up.
Just don't roll a 1.
And just don't roll a 1. It's just like our freaking Fusil of Conflagration.
And at least it's a d6 now instead of a d3, because
Yeah, instead of D3. Yep.
D3s have always been underwhelming on an artifact, especially a once a game artifact.
Yep. But like 3.5 ish mortal wounds, like that. That's not bad. Like that's a lot of times enough to tier a monster table.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys don't have as much damage on the charge as some other destruction armies have. And so being able to do that and pop something down a tier, I like it. Like if I were playing in a meta that had a ton of monsters, it's definitely something I would bring.
Yes.
But otherwise, it's too situational.
Yeah. Spiker Seeds. Triggered once per game. When an enemy charges within 6 inches of you, roll a d6 for each model in that unit. Every 5-up does a mortal wound. Charged by... Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Betrayer's Crown.
That's a solid one, especially with like zombies and the like. Cause
yeah, zombies, Graveguard.
Oh wait, zombies don't charge, so never mind.
Yeah, they just pile in. But yeah, like Graveguard, it's within the charging unit has to stop within 6 inches of the bearer of the artifact. And then you roll a dice for each model. 5-up, they take a mortal wound.
Yeah, it's
sure.
our Horde Breaker, only an artifact.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it reminds me a lot of the Crown of Judgment from back in Malign Sorcery. It's just more conditional, harder to use. But I like it. Like it's if I had multiple artifact slots, it's definitely something I would be looking at. Sadly, I think overall, this book is still better off taking. Like these are all very meta dependent. If the meta's right for it, these are great. But otherwise, I'd normally rather like an Arcane Tome or an Amulet of Destiny. Yep, exactly.
It's the problem with making making once a game anything. It has to contend with the main ones that are always good.
But honestly, I'm okay with that because looking through these, like these are meta dependent. So as the meta shifts, like you're able to pick one that's more niche. So I'm honestly okay with battle tomes having niche artifacts that fit desired effects, and then having solid generic artifacts. At least for me, like I'm okay with that as a design philosophy. I'll be a little disappointed if like we get to another book and it's like, whoa, this artifact wins the game.
I mean, I
But
have a
if
feeling we're very much going to see that.
yeah, and
A,
we could.
a good chunk of Stormcasts, in fact, were really solid ones that you'd pick over the generic ones almost all the
That's
time.
true. Yeah, there was like normally one from each of the three that I would pick routinely. But man, Amulet of Destiny is just really hard to pass up on anything with like more than 10 wounds.
Then you take a battalion and you get both.
That's true. Yeah.
And
But one drops.
right, and that makes it a choice.
Yeah, I
If
know.
you
I
have
like
a good
it.
artifact in your army and you also want amulet, it's now a choice instead of just being, oh, I'll just take the amulet because all of these are once a game and really, really niche.
That's fair.
But yeah,
I mean, uh, yeah, I can definitely see that. Um, but that's pretty much it for Cruel Boys. It's out of order, so I'm just gonna flip to the spell lores for Cruel Boys where we're going over them.
uh huh,
So the spell lore for Cruel Boys, most of this is very tech oriented, which I like.
mm-hmm.
And a lot of it's short range, which as a Slaves to Darkness player in my spare time, presents a lot of challenges.
It really does. A lot of the best spells in the game are ruined by having a 12-inch range
Yep.
or less.
Yeah. Yep. But the Black Pit is their first shaman, and this is a great spell, but it is a 12-inch range. Goes
Yep.
off on a 7. You pick an enemy unit within range invisible. Roll a dice for each model in that unit. For each 6 or greater,
Then the enemy's
or
save.
or roll greater than the enemy's save, they take a mortal wound. Um,
Yep.
yeah. So this is definitely like a my
is an
opponent
anvil
has already
breaker.
charged me. Yep. Like my
Just like we
opponent
have
charged
had,
me with their anvil. Now I can do something about
yeah,
it.
just like we've had a whole lot of horde breakers in our time. This is an anvil breaker. It's
Yeah.
meant to hit those really high saves really, really hard. We
Yes.
don't care. All our saves are kind of crap, but like this is going to hurt Stormcast. This is going to hurt. Uh, let's see. It's going to hurt a good chunk of cities, elites guys. It's going to hurt
Yep.
Lumineth.
Yep. Yep. OBR, some other stuff.
Yep.
Choking Mist, I think this is the spell that you're going to see in every list. In
Because
part,
it's
because
within
it goes off on a
24
7 and has a
it's
24-inch
24
range.
You're
Yep.
going to be able to use
Uh,
the spells, the thing.
Yep. It's very usable. Pick a point on the battlefield within range that's visible. All units within 6 inches of that point until the start of your next hero phase. They're -1 from their attack characteristics on melee weapons to a minimum of 1. Like this is Geminids. It's old
Yeah,
Geminids.
it's old Geminids, only it hits a huge amount of people.
Yeah.
It has a longer range. This is an incredible spell.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. It's really good.
It gives me hope that our spell lore might not always be crap.
Yeah. It lets you know they know how to write them.
Oh yeah. Although be careful with it. It can hit your guys as well.
Yeah. If you want to try and do the whole like green tide alpha strikey thing, you can do sneaky miasma. It cast on a 6, so it's much easier to get. So you can totally like have your caster out of range of enemy unbinds because it's got an 18-inch range,
Mm-hmm.
and it targets one of your friendly units. It has to be a Cruel Boys monster. It goes off on a 6, and then that monster can make a normal move. So like if you're wanting to do the whole disappearing act, set up a unit of gut rippers like right in your enemy's face, then you can move up a monster, move again in your movement phase, get right in and have hero support, and try and do your Cruel Boys Waaagh or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is a common tactic that you will see. I don't necessarily think it's good.
Right.
Like
And
to me, Cruel Boys plays it the best when they're playing with their tech.
Yeah. And lastly, we have Nasty Hex. Goes off on a 7. Enemy unit within 12. So loses their ward saves for that turn. This is. I can't see anyone taking it because of how few units this will matter to.
Yeah, that is a very fair point. But there's a lot of Amulet of Destiny.
Right.
Like there's a lot of Sons of Behemoth Amulet of Destiny. There's a lot of like there's some fire slayers and other units that still have ward saves
Yeah.
going on.
Uh,
So
okay.
since I think most lists are going to be running two of the shamans,
This will
I
probably
think
be the
I would take
secondary spell.
exactly. I think I would take choking mist and nasty hex. I don't think I
Yeah.
would ever cast nasty hex, and probably not even choking mist because most of the time I'm going to be using my brew. But when I want them, I have them.
I don't know. Choking Mist is something I'd use every turn if I
Oh,
had two
it's
guys.
good, but I'd rather like this is a glass hammer, so I'd rather kill stuff than reduce my opponent's killiness. Like I'd
Yeah,
rather
fine.
preemptively remove their attacks by removing that many models.
I don't
Uh,
know. It's kind of hard to remove half of a unit with a single spell.
oh, that's true. Yeah. It really depends on what you're
Sorry,
hitting, and this hits a lot of units.
yeah,
Choking
half
this.
of several units because it can
Yep.
do that. And
There's sub factions.
yep,
We've got Grin and Blades already covered. During the first battle round, friendly Grinning Blade units are not visible to enemy units that are more than 12 inches away from them. Amazing.
this is incredibly potent and significantly better than anything Stormcast had.
Yeah, like Grin and Blades is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Big Yellers, it's okay. Like if you're wanting to do the artillery, they're pretty good.
Yeah,
It adds
plus
3 inches.
yeah,
Yep. 3 inches of range to all Big Yellow Orc units. In addition, in the first battle round, each time a friendly Big Yellow's Orc unit shoots, you can re-roll one of the hit rolls for one of the attacks. This is much better for the like artillery crossbow, the beast skewers.
mm-hmm.
Uh, but it's not worth taking in
It
my
makes
opinion.
them
Even if I'm taking
slightly
that,
less crap.
yeah, and even if I'm taking some, I'm probably still taking Grin and Blades.
Mm-hmm. Skullbugs. When an enemy unit fights and is nearby one of your units, roll a d6. +2 if you're near a monster. On a 6, the enemy suffers -1 to hit for the phase.
Yep. And honestly, like that's good, especially if you're like wanting to go combat. But I'd still rather be Grin and Blades.
Yep. I have a feeling that you're going to see more Skullbugs than Grinning Blades because orcs play like orcs, and this is very orky. But yeah, Grinning Blades probably one of the better starting choices.
Yep. And it's like it's just free. It comes with no other negative. Um, like there's no you have to take this artifact, you have to take this command trait. Like none of that. It's just those.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine Grin and Blades is probably the way to go. Um, there were some changes to Iron Jaws that were pretty significant.
Very much
Um,
so.
they lost Mad as Hell.
Yes, the one where they
Uh,
get clipped and they get to move.
yeah, so there's no puking on your own guys and moving them and stuff like they lost a lot of movement by losing that.
Yep.
They did keep Mighty Destroyers. They kept smashing and
Sort
bashing.
of. They kind of kept Mighty Destroyers. The thing is, they kept all the movement abilities in Mighty Destroyers, but they can't fight twice anymore.
Well, that's smashing and bashing.
Hmm?
Yeah, smashing and bashing is
Smashing it.
it. Yeah,
No,
so Mighty
no.
Destroyers.
Mighty Destroyers is when you're wholly within. Let's see.
It's
You
that's
must
the
make a
movement
normal
one. So you
move. Must
spend a
make a
command point.
uh, bleh, must make a charge within 12, and you must make a pile in move when within 3. It used to be you could pile in and attack with Mighty Destroyers.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah, yeah.
can't do
Yep,
that anymore.
yep,
This is a major downside because it takes away a lot of the flexibility of Iron Jaws. They used to be able to like finish off the 2 or 3 models that were left and then go fight someone else with their big
yeah,
guys. It doubled their Ardboys attacks,
yep.
and yeah, losing Mighty Destroyer's attack is really
It's
big.
big. Yep. But they did keep smashing and bashing, which is sort of like the army defining thing, where
Mm-hmm.
if a unit fully kills a unit, then you get to pick another unit immediately after to fight in the combat phase.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yep.
yep.
And
Uh,
they also got War Clans on top of this, and their Ironjaw Waaagh, which
yep.
is that, let's see, add +1 to all charge rolls for friendly Ironjaw units and improve rend for all melee weapons by 1.
Yep. So it's no longer the like get a bunch of it, but in a way, like this is both worse and better. The game got smaller, so
Mm-hmm.
you don't have the like I have 9 units to roll for to get extra attacks. Like that's gone. Um,
Let's be honest, Ironjaw's Waaagh was already always kind of crap because of how random luck dependent it
Finicky and
was.
yeah. Um, Like, you could
This.
totally end up in a position where you were like, I have 5 extra attacks for all my guys.
Mhm.
Um, but in the current edition, I didn't really see it happen much. Like in third, this I think is an improvement for third edition. I don't think it's as good as it was at its peak in second
No,
edition.
it really isn't.
Um, but a bunch of things happened to already make that disappear.
And hey, it makes
Um,
up for taking away Ren from Ardboys for no reason. I'm
yeah,
going to let you hear about that when we get to units, because poor
yeah.
Ardboys.
I mean, they already knew everyone owned a bunch of Ard boys, so now they want you to own brutes.
Ugh. That I hope that wasn't their actual reasoning, because that's really shitty.
Yeah. Their command traits are pretty good. They're very similar to what they had been. They've got the like hulking brutes. After this general makes a charge move, pick an enemy unit within an inch of them, roll
They
a
get
dice.
impact charge hits.
On a 2-up, deal D3 mortal wounds. Yeah. Woohoo. Uh, I'm glad that there's no longer the standard like you get one more wound. Like that's gone at least.
Mm.
They've got
Oh yeah,
Mega Bossy, which is like bossy. Like they used to have the I can't remember what it was called, but it was like bossy something. The general can make mighty destroyers without issuing command point. So that it doesn't cost them a command point. It doesn't count as having been issued. Which I don't even know why that matters anymore because the FAQ has said that you can't double issue them still.
Yeah.
But
so,
either way, it doesn't cost you a command point. So that's nice.
Yep. And Mighty Waaagh Leader. If you use Ironjaw's Waaagh, you can reroll charges for friendly Ironjaw's units wholly within 12. Simple
Yep.
and effective trait. This is probably going to go on cabbages because cabbages like to reroll those charges, especially with
Yep.
how many of them they make.
Yep.
Yep. And they also have Ironjaw's Wizards one. Pick one extra spell from Lore of the Weird. It's not bad.
Yep.
Before casting, because you don't actually get another casting, it's just more options. Before
Yep.
casting, pick a unit in 6 inches. It takes D3 mortal wounds, and a number of inflicted mortal wounds to casting. This is actually really good because they like to get their spells off.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I like Touched by the Waaagh. I also like Master of the Waaagh if like you're combining it with Arcane Tome.
Yep.
Yeah. Because it can let you basically get a 2-for-1. Like if you were planning like you wanted there were 2 different lords you wanted to use, like Big Green Hand of Gork or whatever, which everyone uses. Like now you can also try and do one of your other tech spells.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Mega Bossy is the best because movement is king, but Mighty Waaagh Leader is also solid. Overall, I like Touched by the Waaagh more than Master of the Weird. I would rather get plus D3 to the casting value of my Green Hand
Yes,
of Gort.
especially because of how important, like you were saying, more movement is king. Being better able
Yeah,
to
exactly.
teleport is,
Yep.
especially when we're on the board and trying to stop you.
Yep.
It's also
Yeah.
just a very orky ability. Punch a dude in order to cast better.
Yep. Yeah. It's like very reminiscent of the Kabbalist for Slaves to Darkness. They've got a thing where they pick a unit, sacrifice D3 models from that unit, and get plus that to their casting. Like, I like it.
It's the same, only they don't have 2 in models. So
Yeah, and it's not army wide and all that shit.
Yep.
Yep. So I like it. Those are all solid. Their armor artifacts are all pretty good. Like these ones, I think you might actually pick potentially over the base one.
Yep. Armor of Gork. It's a 6+ ward save, and you add +1 to hit for melee weapons. You
Yep.
you lose 2 inches to your move.
Yep.
That
Destroyer
that's
still.
like half Amulet of Destiny, and still lets you punch people hard.
Yep.
Yeah. You were saying about.
Destroyer is still like the weapon to give your cabbage boss.
Oh yeah, it's 3 to damage. Oh, you can actually give it to a cabbage boss now though, as it's not restricted to Mega Boss on foot.
Yeah. Pick one of the bearer's melee weapons once per battle at the start of the combat phase. Add 3 to the damage characteristic of that unit's weapon until the end of that phase. Those 5 damage choppa attacks are brutal.
Yep. It's like a Carnosaur's bite, only with a proper amount of attacks, and
Yep.
not hitting on 4s.
Boss skew is a thing. Like Destruction just has bad bravery. Expect that you have to inspiring presence them and hope they don't get roared. Like that's pretty much where you're at with Destruction. But Boss Skewer adds 1 to the bravery of Iron Jaws that are wholly within 18 of the bearer, subtracts 1 from the bravery characteristic of enemy units wholly within 12.
The Iron
I don't
Jaws
really
doesn't
see
have
it
enough
getting used a whole
braveries.
lot.
Yeah, Iron
Like
Jaws
it
doesn't.
helps.
Yeah,
It helps.
yeah, Iron Jaws can't set up a bravery bomb, so it's not gonna be what anyone's taking.
If you're playing Iron Jaws and there's a lot of Lumineth players, making it one harder for them to shadow you, whatever, with the calf collar to stop you from piling in is good. So I might take it then. But Destroyer, like, Orcs are better off emphasizing what they're good at than
Mm-hmm.
making up for what they're bad at.
Yeah, so Armor of Gork if you want to play a smashy hero, Destroyer if you want a someone dead sometime,
Yep.
because Destroyer will kill someone.
Yep. They've got the Lord of the Weird. This is for Iron Jaws only. Foot of Gork. That's their damage spell that I think used to be base to Shaman, but that might have been way back in first edition.
It's been a
Anyways,
while.
it's got a casting value of 10, range of 18. Pick an enemy unit within range invisible. The unit takes d6 mortal wounds. Roll a dice. On a 1 to 3, the sequence stops. On a 4 up, they take another d6. And you keep doing that. Um,
Oh, Foot of Gork is
it's
hilarious if it would go off, and hey, you can get +3 to your casting, so you might want to try.
exactly. Yep. So I think you'll definitely see people trying to do that just because there's a lot of orc players that are like all in and
Yeah,
it doesn't matter that there's a
that's
1 in 300 million chance to win the lottery. They know they got the ticket, so they're going to try it.
and it's
Yeah.
just funny. The whole spell is hilarious.
Yep.
It's a literal foot coming out of the sky and stomping on someone. Why
Yeah, and
not?
it's like the ogre maw where the ground open up and chomp chomp chomps.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the drain blood or whatever from Soulblight Gravelords, where you can just like on a 4 up keep doing D3. Like it's one of those.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the fact that it's still cast on a 10, but you no longer get the bonus to casting for the number of units close to you,
Makes it hard.
makes it rough. Uh, and the fact that it's that randomized damage like D6, I would honestly just rather flat 3 and keep rolling.
Mm-hmm.
Because knowing my luck, I'm going to finally get it off on a 10. There's going to be a unit in range. I'm going to do 2 mortal wounds, and I'm not going to roll a 4 up.
Yeah.
Uh, like, it's cool. It's not something I would rely on.
Still, the one time when you managed to stomp Nagash into nothing.
Oh yeah. Well, and like, imagine if you do that to Croak. Like, there's a lot of heroes that like, and other things that you can just take out of the game because you got lucky. Uh,
Might as
in
well.
some matchups, like there are some matchups where you're just like, yep, this is an uphill battle. I need luck to win. Let's try and make room for luck. Sometimes luck finds its way in. Like Foot of Gork is worth having, especially if you're like, I have 2 spells on my wizard. Like taking Foot of Gork might be a good option.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah,
but
Mighty
yeah,
Edbutt, a 5 up, 1 mortal wound ping. D3 if it's a
uh-huh.
wizard.
Yep,
It's a thing. The great big green hand of Gork, 7 up teleport.
yep,
And
it's awesome.
uh, and it no longer has the Ironjaw keyword, so you can use it with the other orcs in the army.
Yeah, for Big Wall, which is also
Mm-hmm.
really important.
Bash 'em, lads. On an 8 up, you add 1 to wound rolls for friendly Ironjaw units wholly within 16 of the caster. It's hard to pull off, but you've got the ability to do so, and +1 to wound is a rare buff. Not
Yep,
as rare as it used to be, but still. It's really useful for your orcs who like to hit things.
yeah. Iron Jaws, they have the same ones. Iron Sun's Blood Tooth's Choppas.
They got a
Um,
lot less interesting, though.
yep. Iron Suns is now all right. Get at 'em. You can use this command ability at the end of the enemy charge phase. The unit that receives this command must be Iron Suns and within 12 inches of an enemy unit, more than 3 inches from all other enemy units. That unit can attempt to charge. I do like that a lot.
I.
Um,
It's a lot worse than it used to be, though. It used to
it
be
is a lot worse than it used
during
to
the
be.
movement phase.
And the army was -1 to hit with shooting in the first turn.
Yep, and so it's
Yeah,
it's it's not it's still not bad, especially if they're trying to keep one of your units out of combat. But it's a lot less applicable. It's a lot less interesting,
yep.
and it's a lot less funny. Let's be
If
honest.
you are running cabbage spam though,
Yeah, it's good enough.
I might go Iron Suns for that reason, just to be like, haha, there's no staying 3 inches away from me.
Yeah, yep. Blood toofs, toofs. But hunt and crush. At the end of the combat phase, your Gorgruntas that fought in the phase can pile in wholly within 3 inches of an enemy unit. Otherwise, they can move or charge. Is their, like this was their ice tooths back in the day. It
Yep.
essentially gets you a good chunk of movement, but only with Gorgruntas now because they got tired of their cabbages moving 36 inches.
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
It is good though. Like if you're running Gorgrunta
Oh
span,
yeah.
I would definitely take Blood Tooths over Iron Suns. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Like
it's just good.
getting into their movement is amazing. So yeah,
Yep.
go for it. Da
Da
Choppas.
Choppas.
Da Choppas. I love orc names.
Uh huh.
Your War Chanta's Violent Fury can target up to 3 brutes or Ardboys. This means War Chantas are even more useful in buffing your forces and gracefully increase the damage of your battle line. Yep.
Yeah, people were like, "I'm so tired of every one of my list having to have 3 war chantas." And GW was
No.
like, "We gotcha. Each war chant is now 3, but it's still only one body, so expect it to die."
Yeah, I mean, they still have the double damage song,
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
they, they're just gonna keep doing that.
Yep. Yeah, they're man, their chance. Uh,
Yeah, get them beat.
that that is just Iron Jaws. Like that's what they do. They war chanta, they smash and bash. They don't mighty destroyers quite as well as they
Yeah,
used to, but
no,
they still mighty destroyers.
like not at all. But yeah,
The
they
cabbage
do
is still
okay.
coming.
Yep, the cabbage is the same. It didn't get worse. It didn't get better. It is almost exactly the same in Math Hammer. Just so you
Yep.
guys are aware. But yeah, now Bone Splitters, the cool Orks that don't
Yes.
need no armor. Man. Warpaint became a general allegiance ability instead of on every war scroll.
Yep.
So they all have a ward of 6 up, which is good because their saves are pretty crap, although they did get better.
They
So,
did. Yeah.
yep. Tireless Tricksters. After armies are set up, but before the first battle round begins, half the Bone Splitter units in the Bone Splitter army can move up to 5 inches. This is incredible.
Yep.
Pre-game movement is always good, and this is your half of your army.
Yep.
Yep.
Uh, uh, Bone Splitters to me really benefits from being a 1-drop because of this. Because this trait is way better when you already know what the outcome is going to be.
Right.
And you don't have to speculate. Because even if you're like, my opponent's going to make me go second, and you move back, well, then all of a sudden they might make you go first.
Right.
That sort of a thing. But it is an amazing trait.
Yeah,
Their
generally,
Waaagh.
I always move 5 inches to the right just to really screw with their setup.
Oh yeah, and like there's like oblique movements are
Yep.
fantastic. Um,
Before we
but
get to
like,
yeah, before we
oh,
get
go
to the
ahead.
Waaagh, Spirit of Gorkamorka. If the unmodified hit roll for an attack made with melee weapon unit has a 5 or more models is a 6, the attack inflicts 2 hits instead of 1. It's
Yep.
a really, really situational frost leaf.
Yeah, but so like there used to be a lot of things where this was a base trait for combat,
Mm-hmm.
but then you had to use a spell to get it for your arrow boys.
Right.
Um,
This is now everyone who has 5 or more models.
yeah, so it's an improvement.
Very.
Um,
It's essentially getting a 16.6666 increase to damage.
yep,
No, to hits, not to damage. It's complicated. It's more like
yeah,
an 8%
to just on
increase
hits.
to damage. But and now the Waaagh, you were going to say?
Yeah, they're Waaagh once per battle, like all of them. At the start of the combat phase, you pick a friendly Bone Splitters general on the battlefield, so they're calling a Bone Splitters Waaagh. If you do so until the end of that phase, friendly Bone Splitter units have a ward of a 4 plus instead of a 6 plus.
They all become Phoenix Guard.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
Uh,
Phoenix Guard with shittier saves, but still.
so this army, like Bone Splitters now, really thrives on like knowing what one turn of the game you're gonna try and make the turn and having that happen for you,
Yep.
or understanding what turn your opponent is trying to make their turn and then using it.
Yep. Like if you
Um,
get double turned, that's the perfect point to start Waaghing.
yeah, yeah. Or like if you're playing against an Alpha Strike,
Mm-hmm.
that's an Alpha Strike combat, like Stormcast Eternals or something like that. Or Fire Slayers or any of those other Alpha Strike combat
Yeah,
armies.
when they're going to get sunk into you and then you get to swing back, it's great to be able to say, "Ha! Half the damage isn't a thing."
Yep. I think Bone Splitters are honestly weak enough that this could have been at the start of the hero phase pick it, and it
Mm-hmm.
lasts until the end of that turn.
Yep.
Um,
They did get better. Like all their 6-up saves became 5-up, which is so much better.
yes,
But
yes,
they still have problems.
yep. But it like, even though it's limited to the combat phase, it's still good, and knowing when to use it is still going to make a huge difference for the players that are playing Bone Splitters.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I personally wouldn't probably play Bone Splitters over Big Waaagh.
Well, in general, you play Big Waaagh. Big Waaagh is
But
better
they've
than
they've still
everything
got
but
some
Cool
stuff going
Boys.
on. Yep.
Yep.
Their command traits are also split into big bosses
And
and
wizards.
wizards. Yep.
Are any of these that are terribly interesting? Oh crap! They still have Power of the Beast. That's unfortunate.
Yep.
I thought
Um,
they'd gotten rid of the +1/+2 wounds for general. That's unfortunate.
yeah, I know, right? Everyone used those.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
Voice of the Great Green God. When the general lists your command, it can be received by a friendly unit wholly within 24 instead of wholly within 18. That's one of their shamans, and I'm pretty sure the maniac on Boar is their shaman. Like that's not a bad use since he's sort of your boar buff hero.
mm-hmm.
If you're wanting to do a big cav build, you can pick and the other one is you pick an extra spell from their Lore of Savage Beast. Um,
Yeah.
I think generally speaking, shamans, prophets, and war docs make better generals than big bosses just from the way the army plays. So those are the ones that I feel are worth covering.
Yeah.
Um, they've got Lucky Bones still, but it changed. It's once per phase. You can reroll either one hit, one wound, or one attack made by the bearer, or reroll one save roll. Um,
Yep.
so that's pretty
It's
solid.
it's a lot of rerolls, but they don't
Yep,
really have anyone to put it on. Is the problem?
yep. They've got once per battle, heal D6 wounds with Doc Juice. They've got Glow and Tattoos, which I'm pretty sure is the same as it was. Add 2 to the ward rolls for that bearer. Um, their Beast Lord glyph, it used to do something different. Now once per battle in your hero phase, you pick a spell from the Lord of Savage Beast. That bearer does not know and has not attempted to cast during the battle. The bearer can attempt to cast the spell in addition to any other spells. Um, so if you're, it's like I don't know. I think they're probably other than Glow and Tattoos, or maybe Lucky Bone if you're trying to do a big boss combat guy.
Mm.
I think they're better off taking generics.
Yeah, in general. It's a shame Bone Splitters tend to get the short end of the stick in general, and it
Yep.
continued that way. Yeah, I guess it's just a hard concept to make work.
Yeah.
Naked warrior, like they don't do the damage that they should if they're going to be nothing armor warriors,
Yep.
and they don't speed up enough to be nothing armor warriors. And, like
Yeah.
in general, they're just Iron Jaws, but worse. Oh wait, never mind.
Yeah. Yep.
But they're
Uh,
actually better than Iron Jaws at the moment.
yeah, especially with some things.
Yeah,
They've got their 3 sub factions. They've got Bone Grins, which is they're arrow boys. Add 1 to the attack characteristics of missile weapons.
which is
Uh,
incredible.
super good. They've got Icebone, which is if the unmodified wound roll for an attack made with a melee weapon is a 6, that attack causes a number of mortal wounds equal to the damage characteristic, and the attack sequence ends.
Yeah.
What's important is that this does not exclude mounts. So this is
Yeah.
rather good for their boar boys.
What is less important is it conflicts with Spirit of Gorkamorka.
Yes. Yep. This is the one that I think is probably still what I would take, regardless of how I was billing. And it's the one you used to take anyways. Drakfoot.
Mm-hmm.
Ward rolls cannot be made against wounds and mortal wounds caused by damage from Drakfoot units.
This has always been good. It's continued to be good, and now it's not. It's now against wards specifically instead of having the weird wording that made it only work against ethereal that they tried to fix twice and then didn't. So, yay! This is actually a good ability instead of a kind of crappy one.
Yeah, the fact that it no longer targets ethereal and that it no longer gets to ignore rend modification or unrendable is a bit sad. But Bone Splitters doesn't have rend. Like I
At
think
all.
the only thing
That
that
was
gets
always the
rend is
problem.
like their boars.
Yeah, that was always the
Um,
problem. It was an ability that didn't buff anyone because no one could take advantage of it.
yep.
Anyway,
But and yeah, that's pretty much what they've got. They've got their spell lore, which is like buff pigs or buff combat or do some damage. Like their spell lore isn't as interesting as it used to be.
yeah,
Um,
they lost their ride the wind ability, didn't they?
yeah.
That's a
Um,
shame. Uh,
squiggly,
the only good
squiggly.
thing they
Oh,
had
go
was
ahead.
being really fast.
Yep. And Squiggly Curse is still like good. Pick a friendly hero within 3 of the caster. That hero suffers D3 mortal wounds. If the hero is slain by the mortal wounds, you can add 1 to casting rolls for the rest of the battle. Um, like especially if you're taking a maniac, like he's gonna be up there. If you're taking a prophet and you're keeping them up and centered, like it's not bad for plinging stuff, and you're using their base war scroll spells most of the time, anyways.
Mm.
But Power of the Boar. Like if you're taking boars, you take this. It's add 1 to run and charge rolls, add 1 to hit rolls. Like that's just so many buffs. Uh,
Yeah, I'm gonna miss the double triple movement. That was always hilarious.
yeah, yeah,
And they weren't strong enough to make it matter outside of their big rock guy.
yep. And their War Doc built-in spell and their Prophet, I'm pretty sure stayed the same.
A
Let's
good
double
chunk of
check.
everything stayed the same, and the things that changed, less enthused about.
He's got Fist of Gork still. War Doc's got. Uh, he's still got his dances, so you just pick a spell. It doesn't look like he has a built-in one.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So yeah, for my War Doc, I might be taking the +1 to cast. Actually, I wouldn't. Like, you're just gonna always stack, and then it's just for Mystic Shield. But I don't know. Like, they're not as magic dependent as they were. Like, they used to have that spell that made hits explode on 6s that you had to take. They had a bunch of different stuff. They're not nearly as magic dependent as they were. You're not gonna see Rogue Idols and Bone Splitters super buffed and coming at you with Foot, ignoring all your saves.
Which is a
Um,
shame.
like that's gone. Um,
I,
even after them raising the Rogue Idol from 400 to 420, which made it so that you could really only fit one
the
plus
thing,
all that.
it's the only thing that
Uh,
worked with Bone Splitters.
yep,
And
yep.
now,
They didn't like it,
not
I guess.
much of anything works with Bone Splitters because Big Wad does it better.
Yep. Boars, like if you're just wanting to run Boar Boys and the Maniac more Boar Boys, um, like those are pretty good in Bone Splitters. Um, but I still think most of the time you're going to be better off taking Big Wall.
Mm. Speaking of Big Wah
Big
is
Wall.
uh, changed in very subtle ways.
Yep.
Primarily, its Smash 'em and Bash 'em got higher up on the Waaagh ability table
Hmm.
by 1 pace. They also lost their +1 to Bravery and instead got +1 to casting, dispelling, and unbind rolls.
Which is big.
Oh, it's very big, especially because of all the stuff you can do with that. There's a lot of good spells in this book, for War
Yep.
Scroll spells primarily, which is good because that's what you get to use in this one. Yeah,
Yep.
+1 to 1, +1 to charge, and then again the Waaagh that no one's going to take because it takes away your +1 to hit and wound.
Yeah. And what's really cool about Big Wad now is it used to be that you sort of got access to other armies' traits as it went on,
Mm-hmm.
but you just straight up get Venom Encrusted Weapons, Mighty Destroyers, and Warpaint. It
Yeah,
is important to note that those are keyword specific.
that's
So,
actually even better because you can actually mix units now.
yeah, but like only your Bone Splitters are getting Mighty or getting Warpaint. Only your Cruel Boys are getting Venom Encrusted. Only your Iron Jaws are getting Mighty
Yep.
Destroyers. But you still get those key identity defining allegiance abilities for each of the units they should be associated with.
Yep.
So it might be overall less powerful, but you get it out the gate. You don't have to wait for X amount of turns to get a 6+ ward save or whatever. And it feels better. Like, it sucks to be like, oh, this unit of Cruel Boys is designed around getting to do 2 mortal wounds on a hit roll of 6. Well, that's gone now, so now it's overcosted. Like, they avoided that. So I really like Big Wah.
Yep. It
in
did
terms
lose
of
its ability to just hyper pump points turn one and
yeah,
just run with it, but it's not. It's still the best way to run Iron Jaws. It's still the best way to run Bone Splitters.
yep,
Just because like smash 'em and you're still going to shoot straight for smash 'em and bash 'em and then see where it goes from there,
yeah,
and never ever use the Waaagh because
yep,
adding 1/2 attacks is not good enough to
to
justify
justify it.
losing essentially +2 to hit.
They got new grand strategies and battle tactics. I would never take the grand strategies. You're better off taking the generics. The
Yep.
battle tactics are
Oh,
useful
right.
because you're less likely to get bottlenecked.
Yep. Mount traits. They changed the mount
Yeah, I
traits
totally
quite a
forgot
bit,
about them.
and they are awesome. Well, two of them are
Yeah,
awesome. Primarily, Toughen. The only hero, this hero's stats won't degrade any unit they lose over half their wounds, which is mighty promising.
yep,
Yeah,
yeah, for tiers.
uh, yep. Fasten is once per battle. Your hero can move in the hero phase. This doesn't matter. You have Mighty Destroyer. Minan. Whenever this hero uses Stomp Monstrous Rampage, the target suffers d6 on 2s rather than d6s on 2s instead of d3s. Bleh. Loudon. Whenever this hero uses Roar, it affects all units within 3 inches rather than just one of them. And
Yep.
Smellion, which is probably the best. If this hero has not charged in a turn, then all melee attacks against them take -1 to hit. It's ow. I love it. They stink so much you can't shoot them. You can't.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, you can't hit them. It's melee attacks.
Yep.
You,
Yeah, they're good.
yeah, they changed a lot, but they're really good.
Yep. Uh, in terms of War Scrolls, I think there's only a few that are super worth. Oh, they did get new core battalions. They've got one that can give Swift, one that can give Strategist, and one that can give Slayers. I don't think those are super worth it. Like Magnificent and Unified are really the only ones I ever look out for.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
I mean, if you just want to make a very orky army in the battalions, it's great for flavor, but yeah.
yep. And like Strategist isn't bad, especially for Iron Jaws. Like you're wanting to use Mighty Destroyers and all of that.
Yeah, you kind of need
Like
the CP.
yeah, there's a lot that's good for it. And same for Swift. Like Swift isn't bad. It's just more free CP on the things that you would already be using them for with them. But they're not good enough in how they change the flexibility of things for me to take them over the standard core ones. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's extra options. That's always good. Uh, the Cruel Boy's Finger, I think, is potentially useful, but I'd still rather take like a battalion for Unified than take one of those specific ones. Pragnos didn't get better enough, in my opinion, but he did get better.
Yeah, he's still fat, which is his main problem, and he can't fly. And he can't fly even more so now that they took away their fly spell.
Yep.
So he's gonna get
Gobsprack, though.
Gobsprack.
Gobsprack. I think he's really, really good, and I haven't found a lot of other people who think he's really, really good.
Which
But I
one's
think he's amazing.
Gobsprack?
He is the wizard on a vulture.
Oh, right. Yes, he's actually really awesome.
Yeah, he's great. So he's decent attacky. Like he's a monster that's decent attacky. Like more attacky than a Manticore. Good attacky. He's 300 points.
Which isn't bad.
He's got 14 wounds. He's got a 5-up save. That's his weakness.
And a 5-up ward, so essentially 4-up save. We know what
Yep.
that's like, guys. Hey-o.
I know, right? He's a level 2 wizard. He can fly. He has a 6-up ward save. He's got each,
dispel.
but this is the big one. Mork says no.
Yep.
Each time the unit unbinds a spell, the caster suffers D3 mortal wounds. If the spell was unbound with a 10 or greater, the caster suffers D6 mortal wounds. You combine that with what is it? Screaming Mandrake. Once per battle. Yep, when he goes to unspell.
3d6s.
3d6. Yeah. So like that's just good. Like it's good against Teclis, it's good against Kragnos, it's good against Croak. The d6 mortal wounds probably isn't going to matter against Croak. But like In
I mean, if you
general,
dispel enough of his spells, it does. Like
yeah, oh yeah, if you can
d
stop two of them.
sixes on 2d6s on Croak is going to probably kill him. Like more than
7
50%
damage,
chance.
maybe. Yeah.
But yeah,
Um, yeah. So like, it's good. He's good for counter meta. He's also got Mouth of Mork, which is instead of issuing the redeploy command to command, you can roll the dice that determines the distance the unit receives. Um, so yeah, like getting to re-roll that. How many d6 inches am I moving on a redeploy?
it's
That's awesome.
great for slow people. And
Yep.
guess what? Orcs are slow.
And redeploy is just super important.
It
Like a
is.
lot of games are won and lost based on redeploy.
I have
Um,
never gone a game without redeploying a heck ton.
yeah, like it's just a great command ability. So being able to re-roll that is awesome because it feels like half the time I roll a one. I'm sure that isn't true, but that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Uh, if you use Unleash Hell for a Cruel Boys unit, don't subtract one from their hit rolls. Um, and then his base spell is Summon Boggy Mist. Goes off on a 7. Until your next hero phase, add 1 to charge rolls for friendly Cruel Boys Orcs units anywhere on the battlefield. Subtract 1 from other units. So, not nearly as good in Big Waaagh, because
Mm-hmm.
that will affect everything that's not Cruel Boys. But in Big Waaagh, like -1 to your enemy's charges, +1 to yours. Um,
Not bad.
for 300 points, Gobsprack's in half my list. If I'm playing Cruel Boys,
Yep.
I don't understand why more people aren't excited about him.
Yeah, he's not a fighty dude, and we're talking about orcs.
Yeah, but he's still not fighty. Like he's only slightly less fighty than the Killer Boss on the Vulture. And
But
the Killer
he's
Boss gets a
not.
4-up
But
save.
he's not the cabbage, and
It's
that's
true.
what
He's
people.
not.
Well, that's what orcs love.
Yeah, he's
Orcs
definitely not the
love
cabbage.
the cabbage.
There's a couple generic themes across the board. All Killer Bosses get all part of the plan, which is that only one guy runs away for Battle Shock as long as that unit is within 3 of the Killer Boss. They've got a Merc Knob. He's a cheap hero. I want to say he's like 85 points or something like that, maybe 90.
Merknock
Um,
95.
95, there we go. So super cheap hero. He's got 6 wounds and a 4-up save, so he has some sticking power. He's not bad in combat. 3 attacks, 3s and 3s, rend 1, 2 damage. The big thing though is the power of Kragnos. Whenever a Cruel Boys Auric unit wholly within 12 of him is affected by a spell or ability of an endless spell, roll a dice. On a 5-up, ignore that effect. Like this is definitely a meta-dependent hero, but that is an awesome toolkit to have available for your chest when you need it. Um,
And it's cheap, so why not?
yep, and then he does mortal wounds to shit that's near him in combat. Like he's he's solid. He has the totem keyword, so he's really good for issuing generic command abilities as well because he gets that extra range. Um,
Yeah,
like
not a whole lot of people that need that, considering they can do it to themselves, but it's
yeah, for
useful for
unit
those who
leaders.
do.
Yep. Um, the shamans are the big identity, like army identity defining um, unit from this game. They've got 6 wounds. They've got a 5-up save. Their combat's a wizard. It's what you expect.
Mm-hmm.
The main thing is that they have poison elixirs. So the start of the hero phase, if it is more than 3 inches from enemy units, instead of trying to cast or dispel a spell, you can instead say that it's going to use a potion. You've got 2 different potions. You've got the poison, and then you've got the elixir. The poison makes their venom encrusted weapons an unmodified 5 or 6
Which is
instead of an unmodified
incredible.
6. It doubles the number of mortal wounds you're going to kick out.
And also really, really explains why that a lot of their units are kind of crap.
Yeah, because these are their star priest. Like
Mm-hmm.
the
Only,
you're going to
only a
see
lot better than the Star Priest.
yes,
A
yes,
lot better than the Star Priest. Like 3
and
times as
not
good.
that much more expensive.
Yeah.
Uh,
Like, no,
and
he's actually cheaper than the Star Priest.
yeah. Uh, yeah,
Yeah,
so they're
105
just
points.
good. Yep, instead of 130. They're good. The elixirs, you probably won't see them used. It gives +1 to save rolls. Um, like you might see it, but I just can't imagine. Like if I'm bringing two of these, however many units that are going to be my workhorses, you're probably going to see those units backed up by a Swamp Kala Shaman.
Mm.
Um, so like expect to see 2 or 3 Swamp Kalas in a list. Their spell is whatever it summon Boggy Mist, is successfully cast, add 1 to the charge rolls of Cruel Boys, subtract 1 from the charge rolls of others. It's the same as the other guy. And otherwise, their units, there's not a whole lot that's super cool. The Scumdrek and the named version of that, the Snatcher Boss, and it's basically like this crocodile-looking guy, dude riding him, guys covered in moss. Super cool. Love the model. He's pretty cool. He's decent in combat. Like he's got a buttload of attacks. Most of them come from the mount, though, and because they come from the mount, they don't get poison encrusted weapons.
Which is the main downside.
Yep, but they've got like basically stuff them in your bag type things going on with them. They've got the Mosh Krala Slogoths, which are just a worse Chaos War Shrine. They just add 1 to hit for Cruel Boy units near them, and they're kind of meh otherwise,
Which
but they're a good
terrible.
buffing unit.
A lot of things take the +1 unit because +1 is very useful, especially on range. And
Oh, yeah.
Cruel Boys
like
are
he's
very much a ranged army.
You'll see him. Like you will definitely see him. Like I expect one of them in pretty much every list. But I think it only affects combat, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's add 1 to hit rolls made by melee weapons. Yep. But you can totally run Hero Hammer with Cruel Boys. The Breaker Boss might look unassuming at first. He's got 5 attacks that are 3s and 3s, no rend, 1 damage. But he can deal D3 mortal wounds to himself and then add that number of attacks to his mount's weapon, which is 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, rend 2, flat 3 damage.
In general, I think this guy does better in Big Waaagh because if you don't have the +1 to hit and wound, his damage is kind of pathetic.
Yep, but once you can bump it to
that,
2s and 2s.
Yeah, if he does bump it up to 2s and 2s, he smashes.
Yep.
Especially
and
for 180 points.
That's what I was going to say. That's the big thing. He's 180 points.
He's cheap.
So think about that with the Cruel Boys Waaagh, where when you're General Walls, you can pick 2 other units to slap with. Like if you want to play Hero Hammer, you can totally do Break a Bosses. You can do Snatch a Boss or the name Snatch a Boss because he's only 5 points more. I think they're like 200 points basically. Let me flip to the back of my book.
Just don't do Gut Rippers. They're kind of great.
Snatch a Boss. Why can't they alphabetize things for me, please?
Oh wait, crap! That's their only battle line, isn't it?
Oh yeah, just the Gut Rippers. Unless you take Big Yellows,
yeah.
and then you can make your Shooty Boys battle line.
That's why I would take Big Yellows more than anything else, because minimum battle line costing almost 600 points is really crap.
Yeah, it is. Break a Boss is 180. We already knew that. Why am I blind? I'm just not seeing this guy. Snatch a Boss is 315 or 320. So it's 5 points more to take the named guy.
Might as well.
Yeah, and he is better, unless you wanted to give him an artifact. Gut Rippers are kind of disappointing. They're 2 wounds, 5 up save.
They are barely. They're moderate. Okay, they're 50% better than the average 4+ save battle line out there. For this, they cost about twice as much, and they've got a 5 up save, and that's about it. They hit and wound on 4s, don't they?
Yeah, they're 4s and 4s if you take the 2-inch stick, which they're on 32mm bases,
You're
so I probably would.
Stick.
Because you're only looking for 5s and 6s to hit with these guys anyways.
Right. So
because they don't have rend.
Yeah,
so you take
the
stick.
They don't have rend, you take the stick, you shoot for 5s, and you do some mortal wounds. That's essentially all you're doing with them, which is a shame.
They have scare tactics, which is okay, just because of the amount of like +1 interaction to hits and stuff that you can get. It's at the start of their charge phase. If this unit is more than 3 inches from all other enemy units, you pick an enemy unit within 12. It can't be a hero or a monster. You roll 2d6 and add 1 for every 5 models in your unit of gut rippers. If it's greater than their bravery characteristics, that unit's -1 to attack.
Yeah.
Like,
It,
it still wouldn't be fantastic if it just said non-heroes and monsters are -1 to hit this unit.
mhm.
It's even worse because of how conditional it is.
Right.
Um,
It's yeah. You're not gonna see. Well, you're gonna see these guys a lot because they're battle line. You have to take them, but they're 180 points for 10.
yep,
That is way too much.
yep,
That is, yeah. I complain about how much warriors are costed, and that's almost twice what they used to cost.
yep. So that is disappointing. I would have liked to have seen their gut rippers be a bit better.
Like
Um,
140 at most.
yeah, yep, yeah,
That
and
is
I
so
think that's their
disappointing.
problem. Um,
But they do have their cheap screen units, 80 points.
yeah, Hog
That
Grot Splitters, they're amazing.
Yep, they're cheap. They're small. You can bring a whole lot of them.
What
They're
is important to note, though, is they do not have the Auric Cruel Boys keyword, so
Cruel
they
Boys
do
and
not
Weapons.
benefit, yep, from Venom Encrusted Weapons. They've got an 8-inch range attack that's hits on ones, wounds on fours, or hits on fours, wounds on threes, rend of 1, 1 damage. They're basically Noblars +1. Like, they actually have a save, they have a 6-up save. Uh, they have rend, they hit and wound better, and they fight better. They're 2
Yep.
attacks each, 4s and 5s, no rend, 1
Yeah,
damage.
they do not contest skinks for worst combat unit in the game.
Yeah, and they have exploding 6s in combat for 2 hits.
Yep.
Um,
For 80 points, this isn't a bad war scroll. It's actually a pretty good war scroll.
they're really good chafe.
Yeah.
Like the fact that they're those 80 points for 10
And then you can
makes
punch
them
with
a
them.
great screen unit. It helps so much for the army as a whole.
Especially because you have to take gut rippers. These make up for it. Kinda.
Yep.
Not really.
Yep.
Sorry.
This is sort of the meat of their base units. They've got their man, Skewa, Bolt boys. They're 2 wounds, 6-up save. Uh, they've only got a 12-inch range on their 2 attack profile, which is 4s to hit, 3s to wound, rend 1, 2 damage. And they've got a 24-inch range on their aim shot, 1 attack, 2s, 3s, rend 1, 2 damage.
Which is
Uh,
meh.
yeah.
Anything that's one shot is pretty meh. But
And they come in units of 3s. These are
yep.
basically Vanguard Raptors, but better. They have a worse save, but they're doing what they do on a 5 and 6 if you're bringing a shaman instead of only on a 6. Um, they're comparable range. Like, use these guys like you would use Vanguard Raptors.
Only for cheaper.
Only for cheaper and more damage, but more fragile.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would honestly highly consider running 6 to 12 of them with 1 to 2 shamans to back them up.
I mean,
This
I think this is the main reason people bring big yellers so that they can take these guys over gut rippers and then just
oh, is
screen
battle
with
line? Yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
just screen with hobgrots.
Yep. For sure.
That's a solid list right there.
Yeah, and it's also a good platform if you are wanting to run Hero Hammer. Like, you can battle line these guys, you can screen with Hobgrots, you can take a bunch of Breaker bosses and the Snatcher boss and Trogoth for the +1s to hit for those heroes in combat, and you can do a Cruel Boys Waaagh, and you can play Hero Hammer. And I think that's a solid, like, B tier list. Played well, it definitely has the potential for some A tier wins.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I like this book a lot. I think the main reason people aren't super excited about the Cruel Boys stuff is it doesn't play like people are used to expecting orcs to play.
And their only battle line is awful.
Yes.
Like
They're
having
beasts.
having
Yeah.
to play that much tax is going to take the wind out of anyone's sails.
Yeah, but you still end up with good stuff left over. Like,
Yeah, but you're essentially playing a good like a 1,400 point list with guys that stand on objectives. It's
yeah,
like how old Stormcast used to be. There was a lot of pretty solid stuff in old Stormcast, but you had to take a
there
massive
wasn't
battle
room to
line
take all of
tax.
it. Yep.
Yeah, so you always were playing like 400 points down, and this feels very much like that. And so, yeah,
Yeah, but like, I don't know. Like,
they've got
having the
lots of
shaman
useful
that you can
stuff,
buff.
but
Like, gut rippers. It's not that they're bad; they're just not exciting.
Yeah.
Um,
No, they're
like,
kind of bad at that price point. They need to go down. They
oh
really
yeah,
need
they
to go
should be
down in
cheaper.
points.
They should be closer to 140. Um, the Beaskewa Kilobows. This is their artillery piece that a bunch of people freaked out about. They're good. They've got a
Kind
12-inch
of.
attack.
they're
Yeah,
they're kind of good. The thing is, they have a 38% chance to do absolutely nothing,
yeah.
which is no,
Uh,
no.
their
Go
main
home,
thing
GW.
is that
You're
they've got
drunk.
a 24-inch range attack that hits on twos, wounds on three, has Ren 2. Its damage characteristic is what makes them awesome. Their ability is called Skewered. When you determine the damage characteristic, you take two, so it's base damage
Two
two,
plus a
and
third
then
of the monster's health
a third. Yeah,
at
at
max
roll a
max
number
health.
of dice equal to the monster's health. Roll dice, 5 ups. That's the damage characteristic. To a maximum of 12.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but these are really good against like Archeon,
Giants.
Teclis, Croak, Sons of Behemoth.
We
Those
don't care.
really high
Yeah.
health monsters.
Personally, we don't care much about it because our monsters are all really low health, so it doesn't hurt us
Yep,
much.
yep,
But a lot of people, well, mostly just the really big monsters that are stomping around, and it's another
yeah,
reason not to run Kragnus.
yep, yeah. Beast skewers.
Yeah, you'll see them. I don't think that they're the monster everyone thinks they are. I don't think they're terrible. I think that honestly, for personally, they're way too. The chance of doing nothing is too high for me to consider them
I
because it's a
would.
really high chance to do nothing.
It does, but I still think I might take one in pretty much every list.
I would
Because they
if
are
I would if I
pretty
wasn't paying
cheap.
600 points for my battle line.
That's fair. Like they're 130 points, so they cost more than like Celestar Ballista does now. I think. I don't remember. It's only been like 2 weeks since we did the book.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, they're a single shot artillery piece. It either is great or it's pretty much meh to nothing. It's real
Yep.
swingy.
It's too
But a
swingy
lot
for me
of
to consider it, but
oh,
a lot of people will have fun with it because Orcs Destruction's already really random.
it's true, and honestly, a lot of the top tables have Archeon sitting on them,
Mm-hmm.
have Kairos, have Teclis, have Sons of Behemoth Giants.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this is a good enough army that I don't think you have to worry about your matchups other than rounds 4 and 5. So I think having a Beast Skewer Kilobow for that reason, like that's worth 130 points. Like it gives you something that is potentially chunking 12 damage off of that Gargant that you need to kill, or off of Archeon or Teclis.
Mm-hmm.
Like over half healthing Teclis potentially is huge, or on average half healthing him
Yep.
when it gets through. Like that makes it so much more achievable to kill them.
Yeah. He has his uses. He is not the boogeyman.
No, exactly. Like this, he's not the army defining thing. Their army defining thing is poison encrusted weapons and their specific awesome big wall, like
Mm-hmm.
their Cruel Boys wall. Cruel Boys wall plus those poison weapons, plus Grin and Blades, um, is just good.
Yep.
And then you add that with their tricks, um, to redeploy, to take your stuff off the table. Uh, Cruel Boys is just a really good army.
Mm.
Like I think it's easy for them to be overlooked because it all has to be working in conjunction. And I think this is a high skill cap army. It's one of those armies where you really need to know your priority targets. Um,
It's a
so
high
you,
skill point army for a low skill point player base.
yep, yeah, yeah.
Not because they're
That could well
incapable,
be.
but because they don't want to. You don't play
That could be.
orcs to play complicated. But yeah,
Yeah, a lot of orc players I've encountered, I can say that for. I've encountered some really strong orc players though who know when to wait and charge and all of that. But
mm,
I think it's probably fair to say that the average orc is all about charging as soon as they can and
yeah.
wide.
Which
Uh,
is one of the main reasons I think this army is going to do really poorly in the meta, a lot more poorly than it should,
Yeah,
because
I think.
you're gonna have people playing it wrong. A lot of people playing it wrong.
Yep. I wouldn't expect like to see the Australia Masters have a top player be Crow Boys or something like that. But it's not something where I'm expecting like them to be ranked high. But I do think they'll pick up major wins.
Hmm.
Like they'll win big GTs, they'll win some Masters, they'll win some Opens. Um, but they're probably not going to be like that A tier army that's consistently in the top four.
Right.
I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe there are going to be all those people out there who are like, "Ooh, these guys have all the tech and tools I want." Um, but that's what they are. They're a toolkit army.
Yep.
I like them. Like this is the first destruction army that I've looked at in any time recent and been like, "This is something I would totally play at events."
Yep.
Um,
Other
yeah,
main
they're solid.
Yeah, other main changes are the aforementioned 5 up save for all the bone splitters, which they desperately needed,
Yep.
and some retooling of Iron Jaws that just makes me sad.
Yeah, Ard Boys got worse. Gore Grunches and Brutes got better.
Well,
Uh,
Gorgrunt has pretty much stayed the same. Brutes got much better, mostly because they're in a meta that likes them now. Monsters matter, which they never did,
yeah,
and they also got better on top of that. So they're happy, but Ard Boys got a lot worse, and but they're cheaper now. Hey,
yeah,
85 points for 5 dudes that don't count as battle line unless you take 10, and so essentially 170 for your battle line.
yeah,
Oh,
yep, yeah.
that's
It's a
stupid.
big text.
That's dumb. That's dumb. But yeah, so unfortunately for all the Iron Jaw players out there, your armies are now a lot less useful because they were all Art Boys, because Art Boys used to be really good.
Yeah, but the cooler stuff is better.
True.
Like Brutes and Gore Gruntas are what look cool.
Yep.
So as someone who owns none of those models, I'm happy with the change.
Yes. And Gruntas were always a big part of the thing, and they're still really good.
Yeah,
So
and honestly, like because of their allegiance ability for them, like that sub faction, like getting to move at the end of combat.
you're going to
Um,
see mostly Gruntas for Iron Jaws in.
yep.
Yep. Although Big Waaagh is going to be a lot of mixed lists because you're going to see a lot of Cruel Boys units with other people's battle line because the other
Yes.
people's battle line aren't awful.
Yep. Yeah, you're gonna see Crow Boys shooting and Iron Boys fight or Iron Jaws fighting.
I think you're actually going to see Cruel Boys and Bone Splitters shooting combined a lot more than you think.
That's fair.
Because
Yeah, Arrow Boys
Arrow
did get a
Boys are
lot
battle
better.
line, aren't they?
They are, but they don't get their exploding sixes to hit
Yeah,
if they're
they're still
not.
chunky enough to be like a front line that's also a shooter.
Yeah, they're a good switch unit.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They're not great at anything, but they do a bit of both, and they're pretty cheap.
Yeah, so
Um,
shooters and boars, I'm guessing, is they're going to be the initial meta pick, all in Big Waaagh.
yeah, I'm expecting like Gorgruntas and then Man Skewa,
With,
Boat Boys,
with 4 heroes
and
being 2 of each of their primary heroes.
pretty much, yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Ways to kill them. So, the orcs are incredibly reliant on the 2 above mentioned heroes to
Yeah.
remain competitive.
Yep.
We are the best assassins in the game.
Yep.
Bar none.
Yep.
We will not struggle against orcs unless they do the above mentioned you can't do anything for the first 2 turns setup.
Yeah.
If
Yep.
they do that, then you should have brought 40 skinks and if or 4 screens of your choice. And if you didn't, shame on you.
Yeah, Thunder Lizards is gonna struggle against Cruel Boys because Scaly Skin isn't gonna work against a third of their damage output.
Yep, because it's
Um,
all ability damage.
yeah, and mortal wounds. Yeah.
In fact, Thunder
Um,
Lizards is going to have a terrible time against all of the above because brutes are so good
yep.
and they just don't have the output to deal with bone splitters just sheer wound capacity.
Yep. Grinning Blades isn't as punishing if you're playing like Dracothian's Tail drop shoots,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Actually,
because it's
actually,
12-inch range.
it's also, let's see, they could pop it on your slan that requires to drop them out of the sky.
Yeah, which
Ooh.
will take a turn from you. But then there's not going to be as much to kill. And honestly, I kind of want them to take my slan away because that's the one risk is, oh, they could kill my slan before I get to drop. And if they take my slan away from me, my slan's
You
there
drop
when
the
I drop.
slan, you teleport the slan, you drop everyone else.
Yeah, they're just giving me a free Lords of Space and Time. Please give me free Lords of Space and Time. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, the disappearing thing,
Yep.
I'm not worried about for Dracothian's Tell.
Thunder Lizards
Um,
is going to have a lot of problems. Starborden isn't going to care, is
Pretty
essentially
much.
the thing.
Yep.
Uh, if you are stuck playing Thunder Lizards against them, again, snipe their heroes.
Yep.
Their heroes
Yeah.
are. Your monsters are
And
better than
they
theirs,
have
kind of.
they are, and they have bad saves. Like
Yes. Oh,
they,
Lord.
which we also have bad saves, but we have slightly better saves.
Actually, debatable. Like having the fives. Oh wait, no, I'm thinking just their hero. Never mind. Yes, we have better saves in general, except
Yep.
for their big wizard hero.
Yeah, who's got a 5 up? Yeah, that
Five
poor
up,
guy.
6 up is better than a 4 up, though.
That's true. Um, but like a Stegodon, Engine of the Gods, is going to win that trade. He's going to have a 3 up save against him because he's going to
Oh
lower
yeah,
his crest, and he's yeah.
yeah.
Um,
In general, Thunder Lizard still has a fighting chance against everything in this army.
yep.
Even if they just run 3 cabbages, if you can blunt their charge,
Yep.
not with your skinks. Sacrifice a stag to blunt their charge, and then just gang up on them. You
Yep.
should be fine.
Yeah. It's not an army that like Orks. You always have to outplay if you want to beat Orks. Almost always, you just have to be a better player than your opponent. Because generally speaking, when they get to you, they will do what they're supposed to do. So if you control and limit how they get to you, you will have success.
Mm-hmm. And if by the time they get to you, they don't have the support that doubles their effectiveness,
Yep.
then yeah, because both those heroes they double it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. Either the War Chanter or the Bog Pit Marsh Shaman, whatever his name was.
the wizard or
Those
the
are your
chanta.
yep. Those are your priority targets.
Granted, yeah,
Um,
and you really want to kill the wizard because being
and
able
then
to drop all your attacks by 1 hurts.
after that, I snowball based on save value almost always. Like just a general tactic of mine is if something has a really low save, I start killing them because you're gonna probably kill all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Sometimes that's not the case. Like I want a Maw Crusher dead. If I've killed both their support heroes and I have enough potency left to severely hurt a Maw Crusher, that's definitely what I'm doing.
Right.
But against like Cruel Boys, start killing those 6 up save archers. Start killing those 5 up save battle lines. Once people start losing a lot of models, it becomes increasingly difficult for them to score tactics because you need units to do it with, and it becomes increasingly difficult for them to score objectives.
Yeah.
Um,
So it's the same tactic we've always had: kill
yep.
support, then kill bodies, then kill the big stuff. With a few
Yep.
exceptions. Actually, Maw Crushers are actually chunky enough and hitty enough that I actually want to deal with them.
Oh yeah, you want them off the table. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
it's not like Archeon that I can ignore him most of the game.
yep. Yeah. No, you need Maw Crushers
Mostly
gone.
because you can't screen Maw Crushers because they can bowling ball off of things.
Yeah, and they have fly.
Yeah.
Uh, like not that Archeon doesn't have fly, but the fact that they move so far fast with mighty destroyers and have fly, um, they're it's not like you can just table zone them and deal with them. They'll get places.
Mm-hmm.
You want them dead ASAP. Like most of the games that I've won, actually I don't think I've won. I've lost to Iron Jaws ever. And normally the reason I win is because I bait their cabbage. And it takes good bait. Like I lose my bait, and sometimes it's something I really cared about, like both Engines of the Gods back when that was my build
Mm-hmm.
in second edition.
Like
In order to kill them, but you
I
need those things dead quick.
Yeah, I usually lose my slan to them and then surround them and eat them alive.
Yep.
But yeah, in general, orcs aren't an insurmountable problem. Mainly because they don't challenge us on our own territory, and our own territory is potent enough to deal with whatever they got.
Yep. Regular Slan versus Gobsprack is an issue. Um, you could lose your Slan in 2 to 3 turns just from Gobsprakk Unbinds. Um,
Granted, but only that one turn that he pops the 3d6.
yes, yes.
So
Just
essentially,
because
what I
you're
would
typically at +2 on a Slan.
plus two
Um,
re-rolling. Don't forget, we re-roll our casts.
yeah, if you're Dracothian's Tail.
Yeah, mainly I would eat the first time he dispels something and then just stop casting to make him waste it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because nothing a Slan casts
Like
is worth it.
you try and cast Comet's Call because you do that every turn. If he uses it and he succeeds, oh whatever. If he doesn't and you get it off, you just stop as well. Like you do your spell and then you stop.
Hmm.
Um,
Because you can go a turn without casting two of your spells. It's not a painful.
yeah, and normally I'm only casting 2 spells on this land anyway because I'm Starborn.
Hmm. Well, in Starborn, I usually go Comet's Call, Equilibrium, and then something fun.
Hmm.
Because I'm less focused on summoning. It's still really good. It's just something that
Yeah, summoning's just how I win with Starborn.
yeah.
Like at top table, it's like, yeah, those 10 skinks won me the game. Uh,
Oh, definitely.
or yeah, so like I have to like always go for the maximum number of summoning points I can. Like if I'm other tables, whatever. Like I've had games where I'm like, oh, I've got 24 summoning points and I never needed them. Uh, but against like
Scraping by.
good top tables and good armies, you need every summoning point in my experience.
That's fair. But yeah, I think that covers Orks. A very
Yeah, I love this book. I might actually get some. Like I would probably only play them at 1,000 points because I know too many people that are going to be playing this army, and some of the people that I know are like they don't want to play an army if other people are playing it.
mm,
So just for those reasons, that's why I'm not collecting this army. But they're beautiful models.
I
Like
don't.
I want to paint a
I
break
don't
a
think they
boss.
do a whole lot at 1,000 points. You get 400 points of not terrible battle line, and that's it.
Yeah, and break a bosses, which I love, and snatcher bosses. Like I would take a
So,
break a boss, a snatcher boss, some battle line, and I'm happy.
yeah, I
Uh,
think that'll barely fit, but you can make that work.
it's not good. Uh,
No,
but yeah,
no.
I love the models. They're so cool.
If
I
you
like
ever
the way they play.
if you ever have a chance to dictate points to a cruel boy, say 1,000 points and watch them just die inside.
I can. Well, I'll bring. I
Nothing.
guess. Okay, I got shamans. Yeah.
Oh
Uh,
man.
but I like them. This is a great book. I hope every other book that comes out is very similar to this, both in power level and in design concept.
Here's hoping.
Uh, yeah.
'Cause
They're my new gold standard. Slaves to Darkness was my old one. I love the Slaves to Darkness book. I wish all other battle tomes were like it.
yeah.
I hope all battle tomes coming out are like this one.
I wish they'd be more interesting because outside the allegiance abilities, there's not a whole lot there.
Yeah, I
I
mean
don't know.
that's normally the army defining thing,
it's
though.
still the sub factions bumming me out the way they changed them. But I suppose we'll work with that
Respect.
when it hits. Anyway, our next episode is going to be our new changes in the next White Dwarf. Come
Yeah,
back
I'm
in
excited.
like 2.5 weeks for that because
Yeah, probably.
it's weird. It pre-orders on the 9th, comes out a week after, and then we'll get to it as soon as we're able.
Yep.
We're excited because they're replacing one of our terrible coalesced abilities with maybe something good.
Yeah, I know, right?
Maybe I don't trust them, and they're giving us a battalion that's focused on thunder lizards, which we like.
Just
So
wait. They're gonna give us something ridiculous, like 4 up ward save.
on thunder lizards, I doubt it. And
I
we
hope.
already have Scaly Sin, so 4 ward saves and Scaly Skin,
I
which is
know that would be amazing.
that'd be evil. It'd get me to play warriors again.
Nice. Yeah, just play them in Thunder Lizards.
Yeah, I might even play them in Kawada's Claw just to flex on people. Alrighty, but you all have a wonderful day.
Yeah, thank you. It's been fun as always.